how reenactments are involved in keeping or making documentary lively and engaging. I think they're part of the tradition of documentary that got lost. That is, early documentaries in the 1930s very easily used reenactment. And then in the 1960s, people started to only film what was happening at the moment of filming. With cinema verite, direct cinema, Jean Rouch, other people like Fred Weissman, and the idea of reenacting was considered cheating. It was deception, because it wasn't real, and it was make-believe. Then by the 80s, people got tired of that and said, why not reenact? History happened, we can recreate what happened and put it in our film as a representation of the past. So I think Errol Morris was one of the people who really helped pioneer that idea, and it's very alive and well today. I think the reason a lot of films say they're based on a true story or this is based on factual events and so on is to help us believe that it's plausible, that it could have happened the way we see in the film, and that something like this did happen. So it's used often in fiction, the films that are totally fictions, because they are based on historical events and real events, but they use actors, they have a script, everything is constructed, the sets are designed to maximize the impact. So the documentary dimension is maybe slight, but when you do a documentary that tries to remain closer to what really happened, the idea that you can reenact things that are no longer available to be filmed because they're in the past adds to the repertoire of possibilities that you can make use of as a filmmaker. So I think that idea of it's based on a true story is part of the essence of documentary, but it's borrowed very often by fiction film as well. And reenactment is one of the places where the two sort of overlap and intersect. Art always evolves. No one repeats something that's already been done, but sometimes people mock, imitate, transform what's already been done, usually in response to a changing world. So as history unfolds and we move into new times and new possibilities, old forms get recycled and reused. And I think documentary is very much alive in changing itself to meet new times. And reenactments likewise, so that the possibilities are increased with animation. 15 years ago, if someone made an animated film, most people would say it cannot be a documentary. It's animation, it's cartoon, it's make-believe. But films like Waltz with Bashir, which was about a war, a real war, and a real man who was in the real war, uses animation to return to past events. Very imaginatively, and it's an example of the way in which documentary evolves and sort of brings into its fold new possibilities. Animation, computer-generated images, CGI, all of that internet documentaries that are online where you have choices and there's a database and the viewer can go one direction or go a different direction. It's still a documentary, but it's using new possibilities to help inform us about the nature of the world around us. Yeah, I think the modes of documentary remain useful as ways of seeing what the types of documentary are. There's still expository ones, there's still observational ones, there's still performative ones. I would add that I'm still in the process of working it all out, but I think the new mode to me is interactive. That is documentaries that allow the viewer to choose what they want to see, which is typically online. And it began with Laserdiscs and DVDs that did that to some degree, but now online it's much more free, so that the viewer can choose to follow a character, a different character, go back in history. They can do different things, read a document, and the filmmaker loses some of the control that they have when it's a single work, but they give the viewer more flexibility and freedom to explore a general topic in the way they would like to explore. So I think that might be a new mode of documentary. I think one of the ways in which, if you're asking how documentary continues to evolve and how these type of the Jinx and OJ Made in America, how they contribute to that, I think one of the things that they have introduced, and Vietnam is a very current example, is that with cable television, you can make a documentary that is in multiple parts. And you can have, as there are many television series from the Vikings to Borgen in Denmark, a narrative story that takes many hours, that unfolds more gradually, that gives us more contextual information and more information in general, and takes more time and engages us the way a fiction narrative would. And it's thanks to the economics and the technical possibilities that I think cable television and also the online world of YouTube and so on make possible. That it would be very hard to do that in theaters, because you would not expect an audience to come at 9 in the morning and leave at 9 at night. But you could spend 12 hours over 5 nights watching a series on OJ or something else, and it's very engaging. It's like a big epic, the Iliad or the Odyssey or War and Peace. You get drawn into a world that's much richer for being longer and more complex. Yeah, I think documentaries had the benefit of being in a golden age for maybe 2 decades. It's a very long, relative to the length of the time film has existed in the world. It's a pretty long golden age, and I think it's partly one because the stylistic choices are so varied that filmmakers who make documentaries realize they can, with reenactment and stylization, they can do anything a fiction filmmaker can do, music, sound effects, and put it into a documentary and still have us believe it's a documentary. It's about the real world. Second, television and the media in some ways I think have lost some of their credentials as the primary and responsible source for news. There's a lot of news that is distorted, that is biased, that is limited, that's sensational. And it leaves room for other voices that want to give perspective and insight that differs from that. And I think there's a need and desire to see and learn about those things. And documentaries are one of the major places for doing that.